Amazing how time flies right here on K24 This Morning. Already done with the first week of January 2021. Welcome to the show. My name is Jeff Mote. As always, we start off by looking at the big stories of the day in your dailies and then give a bit of more analysis on the issues and commentary on the big issues of the day. Today, of course, we're talking about the big one. It's all about the county of Nairobi, which enjoys a unique place in the country. First, as a county with the capital in which the seat of power resides. But recently, having been the only county not to have a fully constituted county government for almost 2 years. Now, with an acting governor and the Nairobi Metropolitan Service at the helm and a looming by-election, we ask, which way forward for the green city in the sun? The unique city of Nairobi is a main piece of our conversation today. But first, as always, we start by looking at your newspaper headlines and see what you're waking up to this morning. We start off with the front page of the PD. Right now, it's all about matters overseas. Yesterday morning, Kenya waking up to some shocking pictures and videos, of course, of what was happening at the Capitol building in the United States of America. Front page of the PD, America's shame. Once hailed as a beacon of democracy, the U.S. has failed the ultimate test with protesters storming Senate during debate. This is a story that you can get on page 3, 4, 5, and 6. Look at that picture right there. Totally unprecedented. No one would have ever thought this would be seen before. And also, loss of life during this particular protest that took place. There, 4 lives lost. As you can see, just giving a detail of what happened yesterday. How it unfolded, the PD says. Armed protesters of President Trump stormed the Capitol building, forcing a lockdown. A woman was shot dead by police and 3 others died of medical emergencies, quote unquote. At least 52 people arrested, most of them for violating a curfew in place in Washington, D.C. Congress reconvened after the violence and has now certified Joe Biden's election win. Trump called on his violent supporters to go home, but repeated false claims the election was stolen. This, of course, just some of the issues that have been at play at this particular point in time. You can find this story, of course, in plenty of detail in your copy of your PD. Let's look at the top page, the top part of the page as far as the PD is concerned. Ruto asks opposition to share blame for failure. Here we go. Amid calls for unity, DP says leaders should not associate with government only when things are rosy. This coming from the Deputy President as well. You can find this story on page 2 of your People Daily, the details of that right there. And even as you look at the political implications of the day right here in the country, counties intensify crackdown on medics. This is a story you can get on page 8. Of course, county governments proceeding to sack various medics due to the industrial action that they've taken moving forward. This taking place during a time you need them more than ever. Catch-22 for the government of the day. And you can find that story on page 8 of your People Daily this morning. Front page of the Standard now. Let's scroll up on that. Still talking about matters in the U.S. Chaos and shame. They're talking about it right there. A bit unclear pictures right there. But of course, as you can see, talking about how the chaos erupted in the United States yesterday as protesters stormed the Capitol building. You can get details of that in your copy of your Standard as well. All the details can be found within that particular copy. Front page of the Daily Nation. Revealed. This is yesterday's paper. You can see the details of that right there with the game of politics taking place right there. As the world bid farewell to 2020 on December 31st, Senate Majority Whip was holed up in a meeting in his Murang'a home with strategists and locals, which saw him cross into the new year a changed man. You can find that particular story there. And finally, of course, Raila now attacks TSC for killing Nat. Membership of Teachers Union has reduced from 170,000 to 28,000 in 5 years. Of course, speaking to what this union should be about and the robust nature that it ought to have, ODM leader uncharacteristically launches scathing criticism of state agency. This story can be found on page 6 of your Star with all the details therein, of course, as you look at that particular story of the day. But today, front and center, it's all about this county of Nairobi. Which way forward, even as you stand at what seems a potential crossroads? Are we going down a by-election? Some members of the Nairobi County Assembly speaking about the fact that they are ready to vet Deputy Governor nominee and in that particular scenario, avert a by-election instance. Where do you go from here? And what do the politics of the day stand as well? Welcome to K24 This Morning. It's time for your newspaper review. And a good morning to you, of course. As we get to that, let me get to my panel in studio. As I said, this week it's first time encounters for 2021. In studio, Charles Munyui, governance expert. Happy New Year and good morning.
Happy New Year, my brother. How have you been?
Welcome, welcome.
You're well?
I've been well. Yourself?
Sanitizing?
Yes, masking, distancing.
You know, and praying.
Yes.
Really hard. That,
praying important as well.
Especially now that the kids are back to school, that we don't have a spike in the numbers.
True.
We're really praying. And I think it is so good to celebrate a little bit, because if you look at the UK, they are locking down. Another country that we revere, as it were, much as the US is busy fighting, you know. So we are not doing very badly, and I pray that if Kenyans can continue this way, then there is a possibility we'll have dealt with this thing. Okay. Yeah.
Also in for the first time this year, Dennis Anyonka, an advocate of the High Court. Morning and Happy New Year, Dennis.
Morning, Jeff. Happy New Year.
Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
I've been seeing you've been busy traversing Nairobi, Kisii, different parts of this country.
Yes. We started the year by putting our houses in order.
Right.
Of course, we started my county. We ended the year badly, having lost my governor, and then we had to get the new governor, the deputy being sworn in, and therefore reorganizing government, organizing activity has been a difficult year, 2020. So we had to be up and down.
Okay, okay, fantastic stuff. But also joining us in studio is Vivian Tar, political analyst as well. Good morning, Vivian.
Good morning, Jeff.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Welcome to the show.
Asante sana.
Thanks for making time to be here this morning. Of course, most of the dailies this morning are talking about what's been happening in America. Shocking, I mean, pictures and videos that we saw yesterday. Dennis, very quickly on this, because the country at large looks at the United States of America as the perfect example of democracy. They got it all wrong this time round. What was your assessment and reaction when you saw the pictures for the first time in the video of protesters storming Capitol building?
I think, Jeff, what we witness in the United States shows us that if you have the wrong person at the helm of leadership, it does not matter how old your democracy is. You are likely to flip and go the wrong way. The beauty is that in America, we have not had very extreme political reactions like we would have had in terms of violence, like we would have witnessed in Africa. But it's sad to see a democracy that old, a country that has been respected, that many other countries look up to and want to emulate their way of doing things, going the road of violence, you know, losing lives. It's quite unfortunate, quite shocking, but it tells you that there's no country that is immune when you have a wrong person at the helm of leadership. Right.
Vivian, I'll come to you because as we saw these pictures yesterday, many Kenyans were reminded of a certain statement by Secretary Carson when we were getting ready for our own elections about choices having consequences. You think it's time the U.S. also looks inward on the advice it's giving to other countries?
What happened in the U.S., I think it's on the back of a very hotly contested U.S. election. And it's not surprising so much that there's been, an insurrection, if I can call it that. But the thing that impresses me about the U.S. is just how strong their institutions are, such that it's not very easy, for just one person to dictate or decide that because I do not agree with the manner in which this was done, then we will not proceed. The institutions are strong enough to ensure that even in times when there's a disagreement in the way things have turned out, then it's not very easy for one person to just decide that I will hold on to this and I will not let go. Of course, on the flip side, the people who stormed the Capitol, for lack of a better word, were also maybe exercising their democratic right of picketing. Maybe the wrong thing was in the, breaking things and some were seen looting some items. But at the end of the day, I believe the Constitution provides for just some kind of picketing or dissent. But the other thing that the sentiments I've seen a lot from many Americans, even on social media, is they would like to see the same when it comes to black Americans or Americans of other, who are not white. Because the general sentiment was that if these people were black, they would have seen the full force of the police. And pictures were even shared where they were comparisons of how the Capitol looked like during the Black Lives Matter protests, where, there were like armed policemen at the Capitol, and the same force was not applied, so to speak, during this particular protest. So I think many of them are just calling for, justice in terms of no matter who is picketing or showing dissent, let the police not, show brutality upon them. If it's your democratic right, let it be fair to all citizens.
Okay,
Yeah.
Charles, I'll come to you because one picture that shocked me was of one of the protesters in the speaker's office, in the seat,
Yes.
feet on the table, strewn everything everywhere, and you're like, how did they get from the steps of the Capitol building into this particular office, behave like this? Surely, I mean, when you think about it, any lessons that we should learn and bring them back home as well, because that's the most important thing. Even as we criticize America, how do we strengthen our own democracy, our own systems, our own processes?
Jeff, I think what we saw is the US of A. I think that's the real US of A. I mean,
What you've been seeing before?
yeah, what you read in novels, the fact that their stars must win in every movie, they are the ones that will remain standing, or the small little guys will be cleared. I think what we are seeing now is the US of A, the real US of A. If you look at the way the USA has been the moral, political, and economic police of the rest of the world, and every time you go to the backside, you look at the crimes that are in there, you look at how the police handle people, and all these issues are highlighted. If you look at even their politics, and it's not the first time claims of rigging of elections has happened. These things have been happening. It's only that back here we never knew that this can actually be real. If you look at how our people, every time they get a visa to travel to the US, the celebrations thereafter, it's amazing. So I think what we are seeing, because of two fronts, what actually did happen, and the fact that as a country we managed to deal with COVID internally without necessarily having to travel to all these manner of countries to get support, I think this calls for a relook at how we look at the external countries, especially the ones that we want to follow.
Right.
We want to look at how we can develop our own democracy, we can develop our own institutions, we can develop our own civilization, as it were, as a country, so that we stop looking externally all the time. And we show our kids that's the direction to go. Because how many kids have traveled out of the country, very nice young guys, then by the time they are coming back, they are serious drug addicts. And I am not saying it doesn't happen in this country. How many have lost their lives simply by stepping out of this country and going to these so-called very nice countries, democracy, peace and everything, and a lure of a good life. But they don't live to tell the story. So I think this is a wake-up call for us, even in terms of the politics that we play, that it can actually get there, and it does get there. But it's not stopped by the West, it's not stopped by the East, it's not stopped by these other ones. It is us guys internally here to work our way around the issues that we have so that we are more cohesive as a country.
Okay, let's take it from Washington, bring it to Nairobi where it stands. Like I said, even at the beginning, we've always called Nairobi a very unique county. Now, more than ever, even as it stands at this particular point, Dennis, very many people had faulted the administration of Nairobi due to the person at the top. Governor Sonko, ungovernable, they would say, doesn't have a deputy. At one point, there wasn't any substantive speaker who could hold office. He's okay with doing that, have meetings wherever he wants. And now that we have him out of the seat, acting Governor Mutura at this particular point and Major General Badi handling the 4 functions, do you feel at least at this particular point in time the capital city can limp through at least and get some positive progress by 2022?
Unfortunately, Jeff, Nairobi cannot, is a classic example of system failure. And you can't say that it can live fully to its mandate by 2022 because, one, we still are witnessing a lot of political movements, a lot of activities that are political in nature, and the systems have not been allowed to function fully as they ought to. So that it's a question of supremacy between, the Nairobi Metropolitan Service and is the politics on the side. Tura is not a politician, and not a seasoned politician like the seasoned politicians that we know. So we are witnessing activities from the courts, there were appointments, and all these things will come in, and then we are likely to have a by-election if all the legal issues are addressed. All these things will leave one question: can a system with so many side issues deliver to its people the way it should be? And I want to believe the answer is no. Why we get systems in the law, in the constitution, is to ensure that everybody is able to deliver. There's checks and balance. Every aspect of what needs to be done can be done. We do not have delays. Remember, we have had a situation where the budget could not be approved for such a long period of time. And the system requires that the governor approves the budget. And there was a problem. Why Mutura had to quickly get sworn in and approve the same day. That's the only one thing that I think we know he has done. Is to sign the budget so the money is available. So with those systems and these challenges, there is a chance that Nairobi will not be able to deliver fully. Now, we have a problem. The problem is that there is a legal problem here relating to whether we'll have a by-election or not. Because as we speak, the petition against the nominated deputy governor has been withdrawn. And obviously, as per law, every application and every cross-petition anchored to the initial petition collapses. Which basically means that he will be vetted, or she can be vetted by the county assembly. And if she gets vetted and she qualifies then to be appointed as deputy governor, she'll be sworn as deputy governor. But remember, the law does not envisage a situation where a governor who was a speaker, who is supposed to hold office for 60 days, can have a deputy, and we do not have a provision of what happens where the deputy takes over naturally. Because then, does that governor resign first? Then so that this deputy becomes governor. It becomes a legal challenge, which I anticipate, going by what we are witnessing, that Sonko or anybody else will go to court to block, a possible ascending into office by Anne, so that then we can have a by-election. And if you have a by-election, remember, it's not very clear whether Sonko can be cleared or not. Going by this threshold that we see, which is clearance certificates by institutions, which you will have, because if it's a KRA, it will be cleared. If it's IBC, it will be, if it is DCI, it's going to be cleared. If he gets all these clearance certificates, essentially, quote to quote, he will have met the threshold, the legal threshold of integrity under Chapter 6. So he is going to be allowed to vie. And they might want, Sonko being a politician, might want to work out the system in such a way that we have a by-election in the fullness of time. A county that has those challenges, a county that has those problems, I do not think that it can live to its fullest. We are witnessing more problems as they arise, but we do not know the shape and size.
We'll be talking about that by-election puzzle that we're having right now. But I'll come to you, Charles, because we're looking at it from a scenario where, when you think about it, when Dr. Kidero was in office, people complained about how he was administering the county, very detached, doesn't know what's going on with the regular Mwananchi and the quote-unquote hustlers. Yes. Then you got somebody who came on that hustler platform, and we're experiencing the same issue now. How do we solve it? Because now the case being made, and we've heard it several, is like, probably we should take this to a higher level, take it to the executive, because from there, now it can be properly administered, this being this important county, Nairobi.
I think I have hope. I have hope.
With Badi?
Just like my council has said, at least now there are funds. And people are looking, and Sonko has been leading this, looking at transfer of functions as if it's an illegality. That's provided for in the Intergovernmental Relations Act. It's a constitutional, it's there, it's provided for. And you transfer a function to the level of government. By the way, even the national government can transfer a function to the county government. That's the reality. People look at it as if the national government is coming to take over everything and run with it. The only thing that is there, the criteria and principle, is that you transfer to the level of government that will be best placed to discharge that particular function. But importantly, you don't just transfer the function, you transfer with requisite funding so that these things can be done. And again, as a third issue, if you have a dispute, there is a clear dispute resolution mechanism provided for in law, and even in the agreement that you arrive at, because there must be an agreement for this transfer to happen. It's supposed to provide for a dispute resolution mechanism, including even citing the fact that you have a dispute, which goes to the summit for a resolution. So you don't go out there and just decide that you're not going to fund the county, because you're not funding Badi, you're not funding the person you insult left, right, and center. You're funding Nairobi. It is about approving money for taxpayers' money so that it can be used by a legal, government agency to give services to Nairobians and by extension any other counties. My brother, Nairobi has burdened surrounding counties. If you look at the number of hospitals in Nairobi, they are countable. If you remove Kenyatta, which is under the national government, many people, 80% that get sick, go to Kiambu because they cannot find a facility here. The Nairobi Metropolitan Service is talking about providing hospital facilities, and it's saying so many of them are going to be there. Basic things like water is not available. You know, even pavements in Nairobi, generally managing traffic and all those things, and approvals for construction. These are things that we've been dealing with. But luckily, now that the money is there, I want to believe the NMS, as everyone else and the politicians are in court battling it out, so that for purposes of supremacy, and you know, there are some things you cannot say on television. It is not fair. But as those things happen, I am believing the technical side that is handling just about all the key functions, as it were, is operational and is going to deliver for Nairobians to the extent that even as these things are happening, services are going to be delivered. And I think I applaud the acting governor right now, because the realization that all that was needed for funding, because the infrastructure to support the programs that are there is in place in the name of NMS, provided the money so that as the noise escalates, as all these things are happening, I am going to believe that we are going to see activity around the functions that have been taken over by the national government, through handing over by His Excellency the Governor, Mike Sonko, approved by the County Assembly, and you know, and I think I am happy about that. And even in terms of the infrastructure to supervise, to oversight, it is there. All the governor needs to do, because at the end of the day, the government that has transferred the function has a responsibility to oversight implementation, because the constitutional responsibility still belongs to the county governor of Nairobi. I was believing and I was hoping that what Mutura must do now is walk around with Buddy, move around, look at all these projects, confirm they are being done to the expectations, to the quality that is required by law, so that Nairobians are happy about it. Don't compete. Why would you compete with someone who is coming in as an implementing agency for you as a governor? I think that is the most ridiculous thing that I have seen, and I am praying that this stops.
Vivian, from where we stand, we're also looking at you know, Nairobi County Assembly in all of this, in terms of it's seeming like they're being run roughshod by Governor Sonko on this, because this is an institution that should give the check and balance to whatever the governor will do or not do in this particular instance. But at one point it seemed like Governor Sonko was really answerable only to himself. And when you talk to MCAs, they say the problem is the structure, is he who has the money calls the tune. And if MCAs need a governor to give them money for development projects in their respective wards, then clearly there's only so much you can do in such a scenario.
But I think that's why, I mean, I'll go back to the conversation of BBI, because these are some of the things that are in the constitutional amendment bill, you know, being proposed, where the governors will be accountable to the members of county assembly, because an executive, you know, it needs checks and balances. You cannot, you know, govern yourself and check yourself and be accountable to yourself. So these are some of the things that are proposed. These are some of the benefits that we see in the constitutional amendment bill. But also just on Nairobi, as a resident, I think for me the important thing is service delivery. And it's important that the executive, whether it's whoever will come on as governor, works closely with you know, NMS, so that at the end of the day, service is delivered to Nairobians. People want to see, you know, non-motorized transport walkways, because in Nairobi those are not, I mean, they're coming up now, but a lot of people who are pedestrians actually don't have anywhere to walk, footpaths and all that. In fact, in Nairobi, it's not unprecedented to see cars parked on walkways. And like my colleague said about healthcare centers and water and all those things that mean a lot to Nairobians, garbage collection. So at the end of the day, what we want is service, because people are paying taxes even through this difficult time. And we can talk all we want, but what's really important is are the people getting service delivery? Because as a government, that's one of the key responsibilities that the government has, to provide for the people. So that's what we want to see. All this talk and all that, it's not helping us. But just going back to the case of the case being withdrawn against Sonko's nominee for deputy governor, in my opinion, I think that's been overtaken by time. because right now we already have an acting governor, Honorable Speaker Benson Mutura, and it's now a legal issue. So now what happens? Does he step down and then the deputy governor take over? I think during the time, it's well and okay to withdraw the case, but it's like that has already been overtaken by time. Whoever the appointing authority at that time is no longer in office. So we'll wait and see what the courts decide, but that's how I see it.
Okay, we have a couple of tweets coming in as well, even as we get to our first break. At Freddie maybe saying, the only thing Nairobians want is water at our doorsteps and hospitals we can take our people to, especially COVID-19 tumefunzwa. That's the only thing. Our watu wa siasa waende. Hashtag K24 This Morning. Stuart Morgan is saying, I'm still waiting to see a cycling lane in my area. Niko hapa Zimmerman. I can't only cycle in the CBD. How do I get to Zimmerman on my bike? Okay. I hear you on that. Keep them coming in, of course. You can get me at I am Jeff Mote on Twitter. We're going to take a short break at this particular point in time. When you come back after the break, we talk about the looming by-election that could be coming in, and also leaked audio by His Excellency, Governor Sonko. Talk about that and plenty more right here. Don't go too far.